really, really on edge.
Racton Monument is a folly in West Sussex constructed between 1766 and 1775 and was commissioned by the 2nd Earl of Halifax, possibly as a summer house or, as another theory suggests, to watch his merchant ships docking at the nearby port of Emsworth. Whatever its original purpose, the folly is believed to have had a number of other uses in subsequent years.
Local legend suggests that the building here was used as a brothel during the Victorian period and a place where smugglers carried out their illicit activities. There's also reason to believe that the site was used for occult practices over the last 100 years, the most recent of which being only a few years ago in 2009. Could it be that these practices either opened a doorway here or left a psychic scar on the structure?
The most frequently experienced phenomena here include bricks and stones being thrown by an unseen force, disembodied voices being heard around the ruins, and the ghostly apparition of a woman being seen, as well as people claiming to be physically attacked by something they cannot see. Sadly, in recent years, the Racton Monument has been the site of a number of suicides, and although we don't want to show any disrespect to the victims or their surviving relatives, I can't help but think that this may also in some way contribute to a haunting here.
If the reports of hauntings here are indeed to be believed, I think there's quite a good reason as to why it could actually be haunted, and it simply comes down to the fact that there's been so much activity take place here in such a short period of time. If you add in the supposed brothels and smugglers' activity, if you add in the occult practices and the suicides, there's a lot of really, really intense things going on in this place. It's such a small area as well, and I wonder if it's just this accumulation over such a short period of time that somehow created some kind of energy or haunting. So we've been sitting here for a little while now, just sort of waiting for it to get a bit darker. And the last probably 10 minutes, it started to feel a little bit ominous around here. I think that is merely the fact that it's got loads of tunnels around the outside and it's all shadowy and a bit spooky looking. Nothing's really happened yet since we've been sitting here, not heard or seen anything. Hopefully no one will come up here tonight. We did see a couple of other visitors earlier on. But I think now it's getting darker, I think we should be fairly alone up here. So we're going to get going. Hear a lot of sheep in the background. Hello, my name's Luke. I've just come here to visit this building today, the Racton Monument. I've come to see if there's anybody here, any energies, any spirits, or any people that are in this building at the moment. We're currently inside the building, so if there's anybody outside in the surrounding area, could you come towards my voice? Could you show yourself or let us hear you? Did you used to visit this building? Were you here during the reign of Queen Victoria? Or did you come here later on? Were you brought through here by someone? Was a doorway opened? And I'm just going to quickly do an EVP session. Simply, it's very dated. I've had this recorded for years, but it still works. It still does the job. It records audio, and it's easy to play back and listen to. See if there's any voices on it or any sounds that weren't there at the time. Is there anybody that can come over and speak into this little device in my right hand? Can you tell us your name? You're able to speak loudly and clearly so we can hear you really nice and loud. We understand that there's been a number of people that have taken their lives here, which is incredibly sad, and I'm incredibly sorry that that's what you felt you needed to do. Is there anybody here who's linked to any of those deaths? There's a lot of people that have come here and said that bricks are thrown. Can you throw something at us? Brick or a stone or anything you can find? What are you thinking at the moment?
I can hear movement outside, but very easily could be wildlife.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere, so very easily could be just any animal.
I feel really, really on edge.
Yeah, I feel a bit on edge, but I think it's just because of the place we're in.
Yeah,
It's quite
no,
a creepy place. It's quite dark.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's the feeling of that is anything linked to whatever might be here or whoever might be here, but it does feel really kind of tense.
Yeah, it feels tense.
I'm going to have a climb up here into this area. Is there anybody through here? You tell me what this room used to be used for. Not getting any feeling it. Funny enough, again, it could be, could easily be the psychological aspects of it. I feel a lot more on edge in here than I did on my own in there, and I think that's like I say, the psychological aspect that in here you've got loads of corridors that you're constantly looking at. It's a circle as well, so you constantly sort of feel like you're watching your back. Whereas in there it's more closed off, so you've got a little, I don't know, psychology, you've got more protection in a way than in here. And obviously with the supposed poltergeist activity of stones and bricks being thrown, the whole place is falling apart, so the idea that something could have fallen from one of the upper floors down to the ground is, it's more than likely it could be that people are saying is stuff being thrown. But again, I don't want to completely dismiss the claims of the poltergeist stuff here straight away, so we're going to stay a bit longer and hopefully record some of that.
We continued to record for a while longer, but were unable to either document or experience anything that we would deem as paranormal, so decided to end the investigation there.
So overall, I think we've been here long enough to kind of get a feel for the place, get adjusted to it, and I'd like to believe there's some kind of haunting going on here, but we've not been able to record any evidence of that. But what we have seen and what we've experienced is a lot of psychological aspects of the site that could make people think it's haunted. There's bats flying about, which you could see out the corner of your eye. Maybe you sort of think you've seen a shadow or something. Bits of rubble fall down, or the bats could knock bits of rubble down, which sound like bricks being thrown. And just generally, because it's so isolated and such sort of a creepy looking building on the surface, I think that also puts people a little bit on edge, and minds start playing tricks on you. That's the bottom line, I think, what's going on here. As we've found before with places, you can go places on quiet nights when nothing much happens, but as far as we can see here, it seems to be mostly all in people's minds.
The next place I travelled to were the remains of Bramber Castle, also in West Sussex, and what the site lacks in physical buildings, it makes up for in ghost stories. The castle was built by William de Braose in 1070, where he and his descendants lived up until 1450. In the 13th century, one of these descendants, another William de Braose, was suspected of disloyalty to King John, along with a number of other barons in the area. The king demanded his 2 sons as hostages, however Lady de Braose refused, leading to the king taking hold of the castle and the whole family being captured and held in prisons in Windsor Castle, where the 2 young sons died of starvation. It's said that the spirits of the 2 boys now haunt the grounds of the castle, where they spent the majority of their short life. Some visitors claim to have seen 2 thin, pale-looking boys dressed in clothing from the times, wandering by the ruins begging visitors for food before disappearing before their very eyes. The ghostly boys, however, are just 2 of the many spectres said to haunt Bramber Castle.
The ghost of Maud of Ditchling is said to be heard wailing amongst the castle grounds after dark. It's said that her husband, Lord Hubert de Hurst, had her murdered after finding her in love with another man. The lover he also disposed of by bringing him up alive somewhere within the castle. It's said that today the ghost of Maud can be heard wandering the castle grounds, crying her heart out for her lover.
Although its origins are unknown, a white spectral horse is said to be both heard and seen galloping around the castle moat. With this land filled with so many tales of the unknown, hopefully I'll be able to experience something on my investigation tonight.
So the great thing about investigating Bramber Castle tonight is that we've got a huge area to focus on. We've investigated plenty of places before, and we're confined to little tiny areas. For example, Racton Monument you saw earlier on this episode, but here we've got the entire castle grounds that we can explore, and I definitely think we're in for a chance of getting something maybe at a certain point around the grounds here. So I really can't wait to get investigated. So we've just come back to the castle now for our night part of our investigation. It's about dusk. It's nearly dark. I reckon give it another 15 minutes and we'll be in pitch black. We thought we'd start on top of the actual mound itself in the middle, which was obviously where the main part of the castle, the main tower, was originally. Again, I think a lot of the reports of hauntings have been around the outside, to be honest, so we'll focus a lot down in those areas, but I thought it'd be a good place to start off tonight. Hello, my name's Luke. Come here today to communicate with anybody that might be here. Anybody who used to live at this castle, or anybody that's been here in the years since that may still be around here. Don't you mean you any harm or offence from being here? We just want to make contact with you, try and learn about you and this castle as well. There is somebody here. Could you come over towards us now, please? Got a device here in my hand. You about to come over and bring your energy around this? Maybe touch it, manipulate it in some way, and there'll be a succession of lights that will come on. You able to try and do that? Been a lot of people that have seen and heard strange things around this area, and tonight I'd like to try and see if we can document any of that, shine any light onto what people have seen, whether it's you they've seen. Try and talk into one of our cameras, one of these devices. Can you speak into it so we can hear your voice? But so at the moment it doesn't feel especially eerie or any kind of feeling from any of it. Sometimes places when they start getting dark there's just straight away there's sort of an ominous feeling, but I'm really not getting that here at the moment. It feels really kind of calm and peaceful. But that could all change. We'll be here for quite a while, so maybe it's a waiting game here. Here over by this wall. We've heard that some children have been seen around here. If you're a child, would you be able to come over to us and say hello? Don't mean you any harm. Possibly try and play a game with you, a little game of hide and seek. I think you'll probably be quite good at that. Put a little box over on the wall there. Are you able to move around that? Because you'd maybe knock it off the wall. Try as hard as you can. I know it probably takes a lot of your energy. It'd be fantastic if you could do something with that. Very quiet start so far. Then again, it's a big place. If there is anything going on somewhere, we've got to be in the right place at the right time. It's not like, as I said earlier, about it's nice to have such a large area to investigate. That the downside of that is if something's happening, it could be right over the other side of where you actually are. So we've just got to be very lucky tonight. Heard stories of people hearing a horse gallop along the moat. Is that your horse maybe? that a horse you used to ride when you lived here?
Something we noticed throughout our investigation is how well sound travels at Bramber Castle. There was a number of times that we heard voices that seemed to be carried on the wind from the nearby town.
What's that?
I heard talking over there.
I wonder, because this area is a bit more built up, I do wonder if maybe if we're going down the route that possibly it's a stone tape kind of paranormal activity going on here. The fact there is still parts of the building standing, that this might be one of the more active areas. Complete speculation, but it would make sense to, if you believe in stone tape and all of that. Is there anybody here with us? Inside this building? Could you come over and say hello? Then I'm going to place this down. If that makes it any easier for you. Can you try and touch it, please, or knock it off? Interact with it in some way? We heard that there was a man that was potentially bricked up alive in this castle. Do you know anything about that? Were you involved in it somehow? It's really not a nice way to go. So overall it's been another really quiet night, which is a shame really. I was hoping we would get something here, seeing as it's such a large area. I think, to be honest, although we've not been able to explain a lot of the sightings here, we've been able to come up with possible alternative explanations. For example, because it's high here, sound carries extremely well, so a lot of voices and stuff, which we've heard a lot of through the night, probably are blowing in from the nearest town. Which could explain some things of like women crying and all of that sort of stuff. There's also a lot of animals running about here, so again that could explain some things, but it doesn't really get to the bottom of all of the sightings and all of the reports of hauntings here. So I think it's possible we came on the wrong night. I've noticed a lot of the time that some sites you've got to be in the right place at the right time for things to happen. For some reason the right atmospheric conditions to see something, and to come on the right day would be pot luck, and obviously we haven't done, if there is anything going on here.